This is a 1 of 47 built Olds 442, and we'll tell you why. This week, we're taking a look at a very cool 1969 Oldsmobile 442 featuring the 360 horsepower W-30 option under the hood. And this one is very unique in the sense that it is a Canadian car. This is the only known Canadian ordered 442 in Code 10 black with the red interior and the crimson stripe. But I bet if more people saw this car, this color combination would have been a lot more popular because it looks really cool. The 442 originally debuted back in 1964 as a stripped-down version of a Cutlass, featuring a 4-barrel carb, a 4-speed transmission, and dual exhaust, and that's where you get the 442 nameplate. By 1968, the 442 was actually elevated into its own model and is technically no longer a Cutlass. This particular car was shipped on Monday, April 21st, 1969, from the Lansing, Michigan assembly plant, which is where all of the 442s were built. And although there were over 19,000 442 hardtops built in 1969, only 1,097 were powered with the W-30 option. But this car is one of only 47 442s ordered by a Canadian dealership. This car was sold new at Don Wheaton Chevy Olds Limited in Edmonton, Alberta. Now, telling a story like this about a car's origination and where it was sold and all that kind of stuff can be kind of a gamble unless you have some good documentation. And in this case, this car comes with a stack of paperwork from GM of Canada in which the VIN is documented and all of the details of the car are verified by GM of Canada. Now, people can say whatever they want, but it's really hard to verify unless you have all the actual paperwork. The 69 Olds 442s are very, very cool cars all on their own, but when you start to add in things like the W-30 package and an appearance like this car has, it's wearing Code 10 ebony black paint with Code 52 crimson stripes, and the interior is trimmed in Code 935 red strato bucket seats. This is just kind of a sinister look with the black and red, and it's rolling on super stock 1 wheels with raised white letter tires, but the whole package really works together with the black and the red. The 442 was already a high performance car, but when you add the W-30 package, things kind of get turned up a notch. It starts with the 400 cubic inch Oldsmobile V8, and the W-30 package adds these outside air induction tubes that feed cold air from a couple of scoops below the bumper into the engine. Now, the carburetor's got a special tune on it. For 69, they still had a cast iron intake manifold. That would change in 1970, but the 69 was iron, and they had the D-code cylinder heads, which is a high-flowing cylinder head, and they needed those heads because of the ridiculous camshaft that came in these cars. The W-30 4-speed cam was rated at 108 degree lobe separation, 328 degrees of intake and exhaust duration, 475 thousandths lift, and basically what that means is there's 360 degrees in a circle, and these valves are open to some degree for 328 degrees of that circle. So these valves are almost always open. It's a really long duration cam designed to get a lot of air in and out of those cylinders at higher RPM. Now, the Olds 400, by its very nature, isn't really a high RPM engine because of the bore and stroke ratio, but they did whatever they could to eke out performance out of these things. They rated them at 360 horsepower at 5,400 RPM and over 440 foot-pounds of torque at 3,200 RPM. Now, by comparison, a regular 442 with the 400 without the W-30 made 350 horsepower, so that outside air induction was good for an extra 10 horsepower. The compression ratio is 10.5 to 1, and again, this car is backed by a close ratio 4-speed transmission with a Hurst shifter with a 391 to 1 rear gear with a limited slip rear axle. So everything about this thing was designed to go fast. And under the hood you can also see the bright red fender wells, which were just there for styling, but they make this whole thing look really cool. And for '69, Oldsmobile actually advertised that the parts inside the 442's engine were individually selected to be a precise fit with ultra-close tolerances, making it different from a regular passenger car 400 V8. Other things that made the 442 fun to drive included heavy-duty springs and shocks, front and rear sway bars, a closer steering ratio, a heavy-duty suspension system all the way around. So these cars were supposed to be comfortable like an Oldsmobile, but still handle corners. So I think there was about 28 or 29,000 442s made in '69, and of those, around 1,300 were W-30 cars, and of those, around 1,000 were W-30 4-speed cars. But this one was sold through Canada, and in Canada, there was only like 47 442s in their entirety sold. So we don't know how many of those 47 were W-30 4-speed cars. So this one is definitely a rare car. Inside the car, you've got the bucket seats that are upholstered in the red. You have a full-length floor console, and of course that 4-speed shifter handle with a Hurst shifter attached to it, and the white 4-speed ball. You've got red details everywhere. The dash pad is red, the dash is red, the steering column is red, but the steering wheel is black. It's the Olds Rally steering wheel, which is a great looking wheel. This one came with an AM radio and a really unique option. It's got a power antenna on the back fender. It's not something you see all the time on cars like this. But the 442 was supposed to have a little less sound deadening, to be a little bit lighter than a regular Cutlass. But in this case, looking at the interior, it still seems like a pretty luxurious car because it's got things like power windows. This car, interestingly, also shows a power brake booster mounted to the firewall, which is something that the 442 4-speed with the W-30 camshaft was not supposed to have. So somebody added power brakes at some point to this car. One of the greatest things about a W-30 Oldsmobile is the way they sound. This has that long duration camshaft, which makes for a very distinct idle, and the dual exhaust has a very specific note. And when one of these things goes by, it definitely turns heads. So whether you're watching this on TV in Lansing, Michigan, where this car was built, or streaming the show in Canada, where this car was sold, you can leave your comments on our website at musclecaroftheweek.com. Let us know what you think about this 442. And check our Facebook page and our YouTube channel where you can subscribe so you'll never miss an episode of Muscle Car of the Week.